The whistles screamed through the stillness of the plains, long and mournful. As the midnight train pulled into the small, half-forgotten station, lanterns flickered weakly against the wind, casting trembling shadows across the wooden platform. Andrew stood straight beside the conductor's door, coat buttoned to his throat, pocket watch already ticking in his palm. Midnight on the dot. It always was. This route never changed. Same rails, same sky, same silence stretching farther than the eye could see. Folks called it the midnight train to nowhere, because no one ever seemed certain where it truly ended. Andrew had heard every rumor: ghost towns, vanished passengers, people stepping off and never being seen again. He didn't believe them. Steel didn't lie. Schedules didn't lie. Stories did. Only a handful of passengers waited that night. A tired farmer, a pair of gamblers smelling of whiskey, and one woman standing apart from the rest. She wore a dark coat, pulled close, gloved hands clenched around a small travel bag. Her hat sat low, hiding most of her face, but Andrew could tell she wasn't afraid of the train. She was afraid of what came after it. "All aboard," Andrew called, his voice steady and practiced. The woman stepped forward last. When Andrew reached for her ticket, she hesitated just a moment before placing it in his hand. It was open-ended, no destination stamped, no return marked. "Name?" Andrew asked, glancing up. "Rose," she replied. Her voice was calm, but something in it carried weight, like a door being shut quietly but firmly. Andrew nodded and handed the ticket back. As she climbed the steps into the passenger car, their eyes met. Hers were gray and sharp, alert in a way that told him she had learned to watch the world carefully. The train jolted, then began to move. Metal screamed against metal before settling into its familiar rhythm. Andrew walked the aisle, lantern swinging gently, boots echoing against the wooden floor. The gamblers laughed too loudly. The farmer stared out the window, as if counting old memories in the dark. Rose sat alone near the rear, staring not at the window, but at her reflection in it. Andrew paused beside her seat. "Everything all right, miss?" She looked up. "Is it ever on a train like this?" He almost smiled. "Depends on what you're looking for." "And what if you don't know?" she asked. Andrew didn't have an answer for that. Hours passed, the plains rolling endlessly beneath the moonlight. No fences, no towns. Just grass bending in the wind like the land itself was breathing. Andrew checked his watch again. Something felt off. The engine sounded different, slower, strained. Then the train shuddered and began to decelerate. Andrew grabbed the rail as the wheels screamed in protest. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. Outside, there was nothing. No station, no signal, no reason to stop. The train came to a full halt. Andrew moved quickly, toward the front, heart beating harder than it should have. The engineer leaned out, face pale. "Brake pressure dropped," he muttered. "Never seen it happen out here." Andrew stepped down onto the gravel, lantern raised high. The night felt heavier somehow, thick and watchful. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Rose standing at the edge of the platform. "Is this where we're supposed to be?" she asked softly. Andrew shook his head. "No." Rose looked out across the dark plains, then back at him. "Funny," she said. "Feels like a place meant for people who are running." Andrew didn't respond, but as the wind swept across the tracks, he realized something unsettling. For the first time in years, he wasn't sure the train knew where it was going, either. The train sat motionless beneath the wide, starless sky, its iron body creaking softly as if unsettled by the silence. Andrew tightened his grip on the lantern, scanning the plains beyond the tracks. Nothing moved out there. No lights, no buildings, not even the distant glow of a farmhouse. Just darkness, stretching in every direction. Behind him, the engineer swore under his breath while inspecting the brake line. "Cold must have stiffened something," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Give me a few minutes." Andrew nodded, though unease settled deeper in his chest. This stretch of land was known for being empty, but this felt different. The air itself seemed to wait. Rose stepped down from the train, her boots crunching lightly on the gravel. "Strange place to stop," she said. "There isn't supposed to be any stop here," Andrew replied. She wrapped her coat tighter around herself and looked toward the horizon. "Feels like the kind of place people disappear." Andrew glanced at her sharply. "You talking from experience?" Rose's lips curved faintly. "I'm talking from instinct." They stood in silence, the wind whispering through the tall grass. Andrew noticed her eyes never rested. They kept moving, checking shadows, measuring distance. She had the look of someone who had learned not to trust stillness. "You been on the run long?" he asked, surprising himself. She didn't answer right away. "Long enough to know when it's better not to leave a trail." Andrew studied her profile in the lantern light. "Someone chasing you. Someone who thinks he owns me," she said quietly. "A past I couldn't breathe in anymore." Andrew felt his jaw tighten. He'd seen men like that come through the trainer agent, loud, convinced the world bent to their will. "You won't find him out here," he said. "That's the idea." The engineer finally straightened. "We're clear. Give it a minute to warm, then we'll roll." Rose exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath since stepping off the train. As they climbed back aboard, Andrew noticed the other passengers watching them with uneasy curiosity. The gamblers whispered among themselves. The farmer crossed himself. The train lurched forward, wheels grinding before settling into rhythm once more. Andrew moved through the cars, but he felt Rose's presence like a weight pulling at his attention. When he reached the rear platform, he found her standing there, watching the track vanish behind them. "Most folks look forward," he said. She didn't turn. "I need to make sure nothing's following." Andrew leaned against the rail. "You think your past can catch a train like this?" She looked at him then, eyes sharp. "Everything catches up eventually." The night deepened as clouds rolled in, swallowing the moon. The lamps inside the car burned dimmer, casting long shadows that swayed with the motion of the train. Andrew checked his watch again. They should have reached the next station by now. Instead, the whistle blew long and low. No town lay ahead. Lights appeared in the distance. Andrew froze. That can't be right. The glow grew clearer as they approached a cluster of buildings rising out of the plains. Lanterns lit, windows warm and inviting. The sign at the edge of the platform came into view. Nowhere. The train slowed on its own. Passengers stirred, drawn toward the windows. The gamblers grinned, already reaching for their coats. The farmer stood, eyes wide and unfocused. Rose remained still. "I've heard of places like this," she said softly. "Places that promise rest." Andrew swallowed. "This town isn't on the schedule." "Neither am I," Rose replied. The brakes hissed. The train stopped. Andrew felt a chill crawl up his spine. This wasn't just a delay. This was a choice. And judging by the way the doors creaked open on their own, the midnight train to nowhere had reached a place that didn't care whether anyone was ready. The doors stood open, unmoving, as if the train itself were holding its breath. Warm light spilled across the platform, a sharp contrast to the cold darkness of the plains behind them. Andrew stepped down first, lantern raised, his boots echoing too loudly in the sudden quiet. The air smelled of wood smoke and something sweeter, fresh bread, maybe, or memory. The sign at the edge of the platform read nowhere, the paint clean and untouched, as though it had been put up moments ago. "This place shouldn't exist," Andrew muttered. Behind him, passengers began to disembark. The gamblers laughed, drawn forward by music, drifting from a saloon down the street. A piano played softly, its notes lazy and welcoming. The farmer stepped onto the platform next, eyes glassy, walking without hesitation, as if summoned. Rose stayed aboard. Andrew noticed and turned back. "You coming?" She shook her head slowly. "Not yet." A woman appeared near the platform steps. She wore a simple dress and a gentle smile, her face oddly familiar in a way Andrew couldn't place. "You're welcome to rest here," she said. "No past, no future. just peace. The gamblers were already halfway down the street. Laughter echoed between the buildings, too perfect, too rehearsed. Andrew felt a tightening in his chest. What happens to the people who stay? The woman's smile never faltered. They stopped running. Rose stepped down beside Andrew, her gaze fixed on the town. That sounds tempting, she said quietly. Andrew glanced at her. Tempting doesn't mean safe. The woman turned her attention to Rose. You look tired, dear. I am, Rose admitted. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of choosing the lesser evil. You don't have to choose here, the woman said gently. You can just be. Andrew sensed Rose wavering. He saw it in the way her shoulders sagged, in the way her fingers loosened around her bag. This place was offering exactly what she wanted an end to fear. Rose, Andrew said softly, this town feels like a stopping point, not a destination. She looked at him, conflicted. And what's wrong with stopping? He searched for the right words. Stopping means letting the world decide who you become. The piano music faltered slightly, as if the town itself were listening. Rose turned back toward the train. Its lamps glowed faintly, steady and patient. What happens if I stay on? She asked. Andrew met her gaze. You keep moving. You face whatever's waiting instead of hiding from it. The woman's smile thinned just a fraction. There's no pain here, she said. No fear. And no freedom, Andrew replied. The farmer disappeared into one of the buildings, the door closing soundlessly behind him. The saloon lights dimmed. The music slowed. Rose inhaled deeply, then squared her shoulders. I didn't leave everything behind, just to disappear. She turned away from the town. The woman sighed, almost sadly, and stepped back into the shadows. The lights along the street flickered once, then began to fade. The train whistle screamed, sharp and urgent. Andrew and Rose climbed back aboard as the doors slammed shut behind them. The engine roared to life, and the train lurched forward, pulling away from the platform. Andrew looked back, just in time to see the town blur and dissolve into darkness, the sign nowhere vanishing like smoke in the wind. Inside the car, the air felt lighter, though quieter. The gamblers were gone. The farmer was gone. Empty seats rocked gently with the motion of the train. Rose sank into a seat, exhaling shakily. I almost stayed. Andrew sat across from her. Most people do. She met his eyes. Why didn't you? He looked out the window at the passing planes. Because someone once told me that moving forward hurts less than standing still. Rose smiled faintly. You always say the right thing. No, Andrew said honestly. Just when it matters. The train pressed on through the night, leaving the impossible behind. But Andrew knew one thing for certain now. The midnight train didn't just carry passengers, it tested them. The night began to loosen its grip as the train rolled on, the darkness thinning into shades of deep blue. The plains no longer felt endless, they felt crossed. Andrew moved through the empty cars, collecting abandoned glasses and straightening seats that no longer had owners. Each empty place was a quiet reminder of who had chosen to stay behind. Rose sat alone near the window, watching the horizon slowly change color. When Andrew approached, she looked up and gave a small, tired smile. Feels quieter, she said. It always does. After nowhere, Andrew replied. Like the train remembers who it lost. She glanced at the empty seats. Do they ever come back? No, he said simply. That's the bargain. Rose nodded, absorbing that. I think I finally understand what that town was. Andrew took the seat across from her. What do you think it was? A place for people who don't want to decide anymore, she said. No fighting, no choosing, no consequences, and no growth, Andrew added. She smiled faintly. Exactly. The train rocked gently as it gained speed. The engine's steady rhythm filled the silence, comforting in its persistence. For the first time since boarding, Rose loosened her grip on her bag and set it down beside her. You've been on this train a long time, she said. Why? Andrew leaned back, eyes drifting toward the ceiling. I was running once to different reasons. Same fear. Rose studied him. What were you running from? Myself, he admitted. From choices I didn't make. From words I didn't say. And the train helped. It gave me time, Andrew said. Time to think without standing still. Rose considered that. I've never given myself time, just distance. The first hint of sunrise brushed the edge of the sky, pale and uncertain. The light revealed details Andrew hadn't noticed. Before the faint scar near Rose's temple, the wear on her boots, the exhaustion beneath her composure. You're not afraid anymore, he said. She shook her head. I am, but I'm not frozen by it. That's the difference, Andrew replied. They sat quietly as the sun rose higher, painting the plains gold. When the train slowed again, this time for a real station, Rose straightened in her seat. This one's mine, she said. Andrew felt a tightness in his chest he hadn't expected. You sure? Yes, she said. I can't keep riding forever. He stood and helped her with her bag. The station was small but real wooden platform, a few buildings, smoke curling from chimneys. Life waited there. Complicated, imperfect life. At the door, Rose paused. You ever think about stepping off? Andrew hesitated. Every now and then, she smiled softly. Then maybe I'll see you again. She stepped down onto the platform and turned back. For a moment, the noise of the train faded, and it was just the two of them, separated by one step and a lifetime of choices. Thank you, she said, for not letting me disappear. Andrew tipped his hat. Thank you for choosing to stay real. The whistle blew. Rose stepped back as the train began to move. Andrew watched her grow smaller until she blended into the waking town. As the train pulled away, Andrew didn't feel empty. He felt changed. Night returned the way it always did, quiet, patient, inevitable. The midnight train waited at the edge of the platform, steam curling into the dark sky as Andrew checked his pocket watch. Same route, same rails, same hour. Yet nothing felt the same anymore. The memory of Rose lingered with him as clearly as the rhythm of the wheels once the train began to move. He found himself glancing at empty seats, half expecting to see her there again, watching the world pass by with those sharp gray eyes. The train no longer felt like a refuge from choice. It felt like a reminder of it. Passengers boarded in silence. A man with dust on his coat. A woman clutching a letter she hadn't opened. People carrying things they didn't want to name. Andrew took their tickets, nodding politely, saying little. He knew now that everyone stepped onto this train for a reason, even if they couldn't say what it was. As the train rolled across the plains, the moon rose high and bright. Andrew stood near the rear platform, the wind cold against his face. When they passed the stretch of land where the town called Nowhere had once appeared, there was nothing, no lights, no sign, no trace that it had ever existed. Good, Andrew thought. It meant the train was moving forward. Near dawn, the whistle blew for a station Andrew hadn't planned on stopping at. The engineer leaned out, puzzled. Signal's clear, he said. Didn't even see it until now. Andrew stepped down first, lantern raised, and there she was. Rose stood on the platform, coat lighter than before, posture steadier. She didn't look surprised to see him. She looked certain. Andrew felt a slow smile spread across his face. I thought you were done traveling. She smiled back. Turns out, I just needed to know where I was standing. He helped her aboard, and for the first time, she handed him a ticket with a destination printed clearly on it. Not the end of the line. Just a place ahead. You look different, Andrew said, as the train pulled away. So do you, Rose replied. You look like someone who knows he doesn't have to run forever. They sat together as the sun rose over the plains, warm and honest. The train moved steadily now. No strange stops, no flickering lights, just motion, just choice. Rose looked at Andrew. When this train reaches its end, what will you do? Andrew thought for a long moment. Then he answered, I think I'll step off. She reached for his hand, and this time he didn't hesitate. The midnight train carried on behind them, its whistle echoing across the open land, not a warning, not a mystery, but a promise that every journey ends so another can begin. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.